And good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited that you are here today. This session, I am bringing you somebody I know personally. It's just a blessing to be able to have her on today, and you are going to learn and be excited in her story. You're going to have input, things from her story that truly are going to be beneficial to you. Like I said, we are bringing stories of people who have been there before and they have overcome. I'm bringing you victory and successful stories of people who have been able to come to the other side. And just for you to know that where you are now is not the end, there is more ahead of you. Don't stay there, don't get stuck. Know that when you take steps, God will guide your path and you will rebuild yourself back into who you are. And so, without wasting time, I will bring onto you my dear friend, a friend from childhood, and she's a minister in her own right, like I just told you. Let's bring on Minister Ehi Anthonia.
Hello.
Hello, Minister. How you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. It's quite hot
Awesome.
here.
Awesome. Well, I know you're on vacation and you are enjoying yourself in Malta,
Yes,
but
I am.
but you still accepted to join in this meeting, and that speaks volume for me. I know it's late at night where you are right now, and we are in our day, but still you are here to talk with us. So thank you so much for accepting this invitation. We don't take it lightly.
My absolute pleasure. I'm so happy
Awesome.
to be here. Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, well. So I won't talk so much because it's all about you in this session. But in your own words, say something about who you are, where you are at the moment.
Okay. So, like you already know, my name is Ehi Anthonia. I live in London, England. I am currently studying to become a adult nurse. I am also an author of a book called The Spouse I Did Not Plan. I have a small charity where we assist single mothers in Nigeria. We currently have single mothers who are currently helping. And that's me. This is what I do. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. You are
Yes.
awesome. I want to just poke into your life a little
Yeah.
because your experience in marriage today is precious for many.
Mm-hmm.
To know how we can spot potential signs. But before we start and go to any area, can you just describe your experience with domestic violence in your past relationship, your past marriage?
Okay. So, from my own experience, what I understand by domestic abuse is when someone is being spoken down on. Because I think for me, from my experience, it starts off from verbal, and then it progressed to physical. Things like, I wouldn't have married you had you not been pregnant for me before marriage. I wouldn't have done this for you because this and this and this. Or if you behave this way, I'm going to tell your mom and I'm going to leave you, and then from there, it starts to get to where you say something and then you get hit. One slap, pressed, and then you think, okay, maybe that's normal already because I grew up in a very toxic kind of culture where women were being spoken down on, especially wives didn't have a say in their home. So I thought that was like a bit normal to have that happen. So I didn't know that what was happening to me was actually killing me on the inside, and then from there, I started off by obviously by with one slap, and then one slap became two slaps, and then it became using things to hit me where I'll have like a swollen head, a broken finger, and things like that. I think that's I think what I'd say is we don't get to know, we don't get to understand what abuse is until we start experiencing it for ourselves. Until you're in those shoes, you would never really understand the extent of how damaged you can be from an abuse. Yeah. So that's what I understand. from my own experience. Yeah.
your experience. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing that. I appreciate that. So,
You're welcome.
just looking back,
Yeah.
I know that every relationship that's beautiful.
Hmm.
So, can you tell me a little bit as how did your relationship start?
Okay. Like you said, most relationships start off from a good, very good place. But in my own case, I wouldn't say mine was like from a good place, like on point, 100%. I think if I use the lenses I have now to view my previous marriage, I would say it was already toxic from the beginning. But because I was already broken, I couldn't see that much. Although there were signs and I could see some things that they were not okay, but because in myself, I felt like I deserved that kind of treatment. You see, I was willing to settle for such a behavior. So I didn't see it as something that I would get out of. I just thought it was okay to be there. Like he loves me, he's a pastor, or have you like things like that. I just thought it was okay to be in that kind of relationship. But if I could talk to my old self, I would say flee, like the Bible says, you know. I had dreams. I had warning dreams, many warning dreams, many signs, short-temperedness, like him being very, very angry over something very little and stuff like that. These were signs I saw that I should have like said, okay, you know what, let's stop this. But because I was broken as well, I did not care. I was so desperate. I wanted to be with him. And so I stayed.
In your speech, you said something very, very important to underline. You mentioned you thought it was okay. You thought that was the right thing, especially because his status as a pastor, and
Hmm.
so it looked like for who he is, it should be okay what he's doing. This is something that brings all of us to the understanding that abuse is not something that happens to just some people.
Hmm.
It doesn't happen to people that are uneducated. This is something that happened to the educated and not educated. And it can
True.
happen to you, and an abuser can be an educated person. An abuser can
100%.
be an uneducated person. So there isn't like a category of people that abuses. It can happen with anyone. And that's the
Yeah.
reason why it is very, very important that we study and understand how to see the signs. And so on
Um,
that note, did your ex-husband exhibit controlling behavior, or did he attempt to isolate you from your friends and family early on in the relationship?
Isolate me from friends and family. No, I didn't experience that at all. I wouldn't say what I did not experience. But controlling 100% and 10. He was a control freak. He decided, I mean, I remember, as we were talking, I just remembered one incident that happened. This was like maybe our first meeting in person.
Mm,
We went to McDonald's, and I remember one of his very close friends, where him and his wife were with us, and I think I had ordered something, and he said, "Oh no, don't order that, don't order that." So his friend was like, "Let her choose what she wants to order." And at the time I didn't say it as anything. I just thought it was okay, and I was happy, like, because I really desperately needed a father's love, and because he was much older, I believed everything he said. So I was like, let him, like, I was happy that he was even choosing for me. But these were signs, and there's nothing wrong. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong if your partner decides and says, oh, maybe choose this one, suggest. But he was just like, no, you can't have that. Like, have this instead. Like, not even give him the chance to choose, you see.
wow.
So that was a very big red flag. And I just looked at it like normal, and I went about, I just ordered what I wanted to order, and I left. So yeah, these are things that people don't put into consideration when you meet someone for the first time. I'm not saying that when you meet someone, you should just like, where are the red flags, where are the red flags, where are the red flags. No. I think just be yourself and then just observe a lot and do not settle. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome. As you are speaking, some things come out, and I just want to dig a little deeper into it.
Okay.
So you mentioned how controlling he was right from the beginning, which you just let
Mhm.
it fly. And you also mentioned that when you guys married, then things started progressing from one thing to the other. So
Mhm.
did you did you like see the changes in your partner's behavior whenever you have disagreement? Did you see that escalating step by step? Like when there are conflict, did you see the changes from when you were dating to when you married? Did you see how differently he handled disagreement?
I think obviously when you start living with someone, it's a different ballgame, right? Because you're in close proximity, then you see them
Mm,
for who they truly are. But when you're not living in that space with them, because remember he lived in a different city, I lived in a
mm,
different city, so we saw like once in a while. Um, I think that yes, some things progressed, things became worse, definitely became worse. But there were signs of that behavior, that narcissistic behavior, that controlling behavior from our dating times that progressed. Then okay, when we then became a married couple, it got worse. Because now you're
mm,
now in this marriage and you're stuck. So it's like he's now like overpowering. You can't like it was almost as if I was there and I was stuck. And he took advantage of that because he knew that I was the kind of person that would say, we die here. Like this marriage is for life till Jesus comes, regardless of
yeah.
what happens. Yeah. So I think he took advantage of that and he just did whatever he wanted to do. But yeah, like your question, he things progressed, yes.
Mm,
Initially things were there, that behavior was there. But as we got married, when we got married, it became worse. Yeah.
mm.
Because there was no he didn't hit me during courtship. The hitting started in the marriage. But obviously, there were like times where he was verbally abusive and saying things that hurt me so deeply. And then when we got married, it became worse from there, became the beating started. Yeah.
Do you remember there was a
Mhm.
particular moment
Mhm.
in that relationship when it got worse, when it got bad? Do you remember the moment you decided I've had enough?
I had enough many times. Many times.
That
I had enough
is
many.
the
I had
key
enough
thing.
a week after we got married. Sorry?
Go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah. I had enough a week after we got married because I saw some things that I was shocked at. I was like, what? I had enough at different stages of the marriage, but there was just that fight within me to want to make it work. You know, I'm not the type of person that would want to give up on something that like that, especially marriage, because I was coming from a divorced home. And so I was determined that I wanted my marriage to work, regardless of what happens. So I had enough many times, but did I make a move to leave? No, I stayed because I thought it was going to change.
And did you seek advice or support from friends or family in your relationship early on?
I did. I did. The beginning, I told friends, and you were one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Because I thought I. The thing is, at the time, how old was I? 21. At 21, you think you know everything, don't you? The thing is, this is what I'll just tell you what it is. The idea of marriage and a loving person was what I had in my head. Okay, but the
Yeah.
person I was thinking that with was not there. You see
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to say? So
Yeah.
it was almost as if I love the idea of marriage, and I've always I always wanted to get married. I don't know why, for some reason, from a young age.
You just idolized him.
Yes, I did. I did.
Yes.
I did, and I was advised by friends, family. Yes. Remember, everything happened very quickly. We got married after 5 months of being together. So before some family members could even hear what was going on, I was already married. And I was very determined that I didn't want to take my marriage to any family member to discuss, and we were going to sort things out together.
Mm.
So it was when things got worse that family got to know that I was being beaten at home and my life was at stake. Yeah.
So, two questions in one.
Yeah.
Before you married him, did anybody among your friends and family, did anybody tell you that was not the right choice? Did anybody see and warn you about it?
Yeah. Yes, based on the dreams I told them, I said I was having these dreams, and in the dreams, these were the things I was seeing. I was saying things like him being abusive towards me, and I told my mom, and I think I must have told you. I don't remember now. I told you. I think I did. And I remember even you telling me, Antonia, if this is not the right person for you, don't you think God can bring the right person? But the idea of not wanting to be by myself, because I was very clingy, and the fear of not wanting to be by myself was just like hitting me so much. And I just thought, nah, I said, the excuse I always gave myself was, it was always, well, he's a pastor. How bad can it get? Yes, because I really idolized pastors, forgetting that they are also human beings. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong about you honoring your pastor. There's nothing wrong about you honoring pastors. But we need to understand that they're also human beings. And when we see character traits that are not like in line with the will of God, that's what we need to be like very careful. And just be mindful that people make mistakes and people are still growing, and you don't have to be married to a pastor. Yeah,
Yeah, I know. Thank you for sharing that. Truly very insightful, very insightful. But
thank you.
another thing, tell me, how did you navigate? Did you ever address when you started seeing the signs in a marriage? Did you ever address with him that what was going on was wrong and you don't agree and accept that kind of treatment?
I did on different occasions. But was he willing to want to hear? No. Um, so in that marriage, it was like he was up here, I was down there. There was
Mm.
nothing I could say from this point that he could hear from this point. So it was just like me talking, just talking. And then he would just go like silent for like 3 weeks or maybe even a month and not say a word. So yes, yes, yes. Communication was a very big deal. We couldn't talk. We couldn't really like talk about things. So yeah, because I was too, he made me feel like I didn't know what I was saying. I was too young. What did I know? He would say things like that. Who do you think you are? Who are you? So when someone sees you that way, what would you ever say that they would listen to? Even though I try to want to talk about these things, but yeah,
So, right. So he used the silent treatment as a means of controlling.
big time, big time. I have never seen a person that would keep that kind of malice. If you could give awards, he would have won like multiple awards. I'm not gonna lie. Like there are people who just master the act. Because I'm someone when I get upset, if I get upset or I get angry about something, the moment we talk about it, it's done. I move on, and I want to
Yeah.
talk. I don't like malice at all. So he was the opposite. He could go on for 2 years and not say a word. This is not even a joke. This is real. Yes, this is real life. 2 good years. The same
Wow.
house. Yes.
How long were you married?
Good question. 20, sorry, 2004, November 6th to February 2012 on paper, but the separation happened, in my own opinion, in 2009 when I saw
Mm.
something that he did that was wrong. I remember going to my mom's house for a while. He never contacted us. And when I mean us, me and the kids. And then I came back, and that was how he moved his things to the living room, and I remained in the bedroom. And for 2 years, 2 years, 2009, 10, 11, yeah, more than 2 years, 2 years plus, we didn't have any communication. I tried, spoke to some pastors that he respected, spoke to a few people, we had meetings, um, but nothing seemed to have worked. So he had already made up his mind and wanted out of the marriage. So yeah, but I waited. I needed to be sure that I was doing the right thing. Yeah.
So you stayed
So
for
roughly, I
two
would say roughly
years.
8 years. Roughly 8 years.
Mm.
Yeah.
So within the 8 years, 2 years, you literally stayed separated in the same house, waiting
Yes.
for him to reconcile.
Yes. He was waiting for me to sign the separation papers while I was waiting for us to reconcile. We're in two different worlds. Yes. And
Wow.
I gave up on waiting because I had prayed about it and I needed to be sure that I was doing the right thing. And I remember the season, the last time I prayed, I was like, I'm not going to pray about this anymore. This will be the last time I pray about it. And if he comes again and says he wants the thing, I'll give it to him. So in the midst of me praying and waiting and trying to hear what God was actually saying, he beat me so much that my head got swollen. And then that was when I said, no, I'm not doing this. I've already received my answer. This is it. Take you on the separation. I'm going to sign it before I die. Yeah. Yes.
Minister Antonia, I've been friends with you for a very long time. You never told me he beat you that much.
Really?
Really.
I I guess there were things I didn't want to share that much, to be fair. Because somehow you want to protect your husband, right? You want to protect him at all costs. So there are things I didn't share. There were things I didn't share with anybody that only my lawyer knew. And she was like, huh? Yeah. Even me, sometimes when I think about those things, I get very surprised. Like, how did I even live that life? Like, this guy could have actually killed me.
Yeah. I
But
emphasize
God.
on that point because for our audience to understand that it is not only you who keeps secret, who is not sharing that information with the outside
Mm-hmm.
world.
Mm-hmm.
Every one of us who have gone through this, we keep quiet.
Yeah.
We protect the integrity of the person who is abusing us.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, they are going out there and just slandering your character
Of
in
course.
any way they can to
Mm-hmm.
show to the world that you are a bad partner. You don't do
Mm-hmm.
this, you're not right. And sometimes, even people who have known you for so long tend to buy into the lies they say. And this is the
And
reason
just
why.
to
Go
just to
ahead.
add to what sorry to cut you, just to add to what you just said, what you said was is very, very true in my own case because remember, I was in Verona. So when I got married, I moved to Milan.
Milan.
And Milan is a place where I didn't know many people, and he knew a lot of people. So it was more of his crowd
Mm,
and his people. So they knew him. They didn't know him as a woman beater. So whatever I said did not make sense because obviously they knew him as a loving brother, a loving pastor. So you can imagine being in that kind of crowd where you barely even know anyone. Your friends are his friends that you've adopted. So it was
mm.
like you being a very like a loner, basically. So it was a tough season of my life. Yeah.
You see, earlier on, I asked you the question of were you isolated from your friends, and you said no. Now, when you make this statement, you
Hmm.
realize that you were isolated.
Yeah. But I wouldn't say he made me or he
They never,
control.
it's never anything that they make you feel they
Yeah.
made. They make you do it. So it looks
Hmm.
like your choice to isolate
Hmm.
yourself for the good of your marriage.
Mm.
And because of that, though we've been best friends for many years before your
Hmm.
marriage, you
Hmm.
never, Antonia,
Hmm.
you never shared one word in a very despicable way about your husband.
Hmm.
Because yes, you told me there are issues. I remember when Esley was born and you came around, you mentioned, there are some issues. You are taking a vacation. There are some issues
Hmm.
here and there, but you never really went deep for me. This was 2009. But now you
Yes.
are telling me that in 2009, that's when the whole thing happened. And it was
Yes.
February 2009 that my
Yes.
son was born. And
Yeah.
so, though you came around that season, you
Hmm.
never shared with your bestest friends what was going on with
Mm.
you, because the intent in our heart when we are being abused is still to protect that person, because
Yes.
genuinely we love them,
Hmm.
we genuinely respect them, and we genuinely hope that they will change. And
Yes.
here is the takeaway for some of you that are listening in this audience with me today, is that sometimes that is just fantasy that we just
Mm-hmm.
hold. Trust me, every relationship have issues. There's no relationship without challenges, okay? But abuse is not a challenge.
Mm.
Abuse is an intentional decision that the abuser decide to carry against one person. Because like Minister Ehi just said, he had friends who just knew him as the loving pastor, the
Mm.
amazing brother, the friend that goes out of his way for everybody. Nobody ever thought that he could raise his hands against a woman,
Yeah.
and his wife for that matter. And so, whenever she opened her mouth to even try to share that with anybody, they will just discount it because they never could imagine him doing that. And this is the situation many of us end up in. Nobody believe you if you will share. And so you
Yeah.
keep quiet because at the end, those who could do something about it don't believe. Those who cannot do nothing about it, you don't want to share your problems with them.
Mm.
Because I definitely couldn't have called your ex-husband to tell him anything that he will listen in the first place.
Mm.
He wasn't my friend like that.
Mm.
And
And even to be fair,
go ahead.
I reached out to his sister. I remember telling his sister what I was experiencing, and I remember her saying, "I didn't know my brother to be a woman beater." I'll never
Wow.
forget. I remember where I was even in Italy. I remember I was on
Wow.
the streets just walking, and then I remember calling her to tell her, "This guy beats me." And she was like, "I don't know him to be a woman beater." Imagine a fellow woman telling a fellow woman that you don't know your brother. But I'm telling you, this is what I'm experiencing. So are you trying to say that I'm lying? So you don't know him, you have never married him. Like I married him, I'm the one, so yeah.
Thank you so much. You are just giving us nuggets today. And I appreciate because I know this is very sensitive. And I'm just pulling information, pulling things from you that I have not even heard all these years. But in hindsight, what advice would you give to others who may be in the early stages of their relationship and suspect they are experiencing similar warnings of domestic abuse like you shared? What will be your
Mm.
advice to them?
I would say always remember that you're better off being on your own than being with someone that when you're in that marriage, you would wish you were single. Because that was my case. There were times I cried and said, God, I wish I was single. The very thing I was rushing to want to get into was the very thing that became like a burden that wanted to kill me. Marriage. I thought marriage was like heaven. Don't get me wrong, marriage is a beautiful thing. This is something that God, ordained for us to enjoy. Okay. But when you don't do with the right person, when you're married to an abuser, it's worse. It's like hell. It's like something that should have been beautiful is now like the direct opposite, like darkness. So I would say take your time to get to know this person. When you start seeing those signs, please leave that relationship. That's all you can do. I can't tell you try to seek advice. You're not married to them yet. That's like your escape route. Run, flee. That's it. That's
Thank
literally it.
you.
There's nothing like talk to a counselor. You're not married, so you can't. I can't tell you get a therapist and stuff like that. Mm-mm. Let him sort himself out. You just go, fly, flee. Whatever you need to do, do. But end it. You're better off ending an engagement or a long-term relationship that is abusive than being married to someone who is abusive. Because you're just like it's like you're signing your own death, whatever. Yeah.
Thank you. I
You're
believe
welcome.
that you have given us so much to work with. Earlier on, we had teachings on types of relationships. And sometimes we just bind ourselves into something. We make something out of a relationship that is not supposed to be.
Mm.
um, when you see these kind of signs, it is important that you just flee, is the word
Mm.
that has been
That's
given
it.
to us by Minister Ehi Anthonia, and I believe we'll keep that word. Flee.
Hopefully.
And so, for
Yeah.
those of you who are just in a courtship, Those of you who are just, getting to know the person, it's been 2 months, it's been 5 months, it's been a year, maybe it's been 8 years, because sometimes some of them will keep you long and they
Mm,
are not marrying you, but they are
mm,
abusing you, and you are still there because you are hoping they will marry you.
mm.
That as well is a red flag. And so, if that is your situation, the advice coming from our relationship coach, one who has been through it herself for 8 good years, married and suffered from verbal to emotional, physical, and all there is. I tell you, she experienced it. And her advice is flee. As long
Yeah.
as you don't have that contract signed, that ring on your finger, flee. It is
Can I just
better
say,
to go ahead.
sorry? And if you, even if you're married, I would never say stay in that marriage, because I look at myself now. I should have left that marriage. Why I stayed, I still don't know. I guess I was not. If you were now, I would have walked away, because I don't think I would advise anyone to stay and die in a marriage. That's not the will of God for you. That's not the will of. I don't think Jesus will allow you to stay in a marriage where you've been abused and then see you die. Because there are people who have died in marriages where they couldn't get out because divorce is a sin. God hates divorce, and then you die in a marriage. You can't, like, God is too good to allow you die in a marriage. So I would say, just try to seek help. If anything, stay somewhere else first where you can sort yourself out. Be safe out there. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There isn't much more that we can add. We will
Mhm.
have other people sharing their testimony to you very soon. But to Minister Ehi Antonia, I want to say a personal thank you for
My
being
pleasure.
vulnerable and sharing your story with us. I'm telling you, my goal with Sound Mind is, if I can save one person
Mm,
from not entering into that kind of relationship, can save one person from
mm,
getting the courage to walk out from a marriage that is abusive, my purpose is accomplished. And all I'm doing is making sure that I create awareness. I speak in the corridors of church, because it looks like many places, at least when I was growing up, and until I went through and I came out, I never heard the word abuse in my life. And I was
mm,
in
mm.
church all my life.
Yeah.
That was a word I never heard. I never Nobody ever told me that if you marry and your husband is beating you and doing this and this and that is wrong, and nobody addresses those situations. So people stay in and
Yeah.
die. And it is
Yes.
it is imperative that we say no to
Mm,
such kind of treatment, because
yeah.
marriage, God made marriage for us to enjoy it, not to
Yeah.
endure. And it is
Yes.
important that we do speak out. Those of us who have been through this painful part, it is important that we speak out, because myself as a minister,
Mm-hmm.
at the time of my marriage, I never ever thought I will marry and divorce ever in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I believe marriage was, you marry and, the first
For life.
person,
Yeah.
you for life until death do us part. That was my
Yeah.
belief of what marriage was. I have to
Mm-hmm.
have a very crucial and brutal awakening
Mm-hmm.
in that marriage for me to take that step and walk out. It took everything in me. It didn't take me 8 years, unlike my dear friend Minister Ahi here. I was courageous earlier. Let me say, let me just put it that way. I courageously walked out. I think after 3.5 years, I had had enough. But don't die in it. Flee. That's the
Yeah.
word she has given to us today. Flee, flee, and it's very, very godly. Jesus said that. When
Mm-hmm.
you see the sin, when you see and you can't handle, flee.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. Do you have any last word for us? I am done and I appreciate what you've done with us today. What is your last word for us today?
I think that one of the reasons why people give up so easily when they are in that situation of the abuse kind of states, where they're with the abuser, they have this thing of, if I leave, I would never find anyone that would accept me,
Mm,
you see. And or where do I begin from? So I'll just say God is a God who gives us a second chance and a third chance and a fourth chance and a fifth, like that. Do not stay in a place where you're losing yourself and you don't have a voice, all because you have that fear that God will not give you something that's better. So I would say also, when you leave there, get healing, find yourself. Don't rush into something else, because very likely, if you rush into something else, you're going to rush into another abuser, because there's
mhm.
something in you that needs to be healed, that needs healing. So yeah, that's just what I would say. Yeah.
Thank you. That is that is precious. My dears, there's one last thing I will tell you about Minister Ehi Anthonia, and then I will let you go, Minister. As she mentioned before, she has a book written, The Spouse I Did Not Plan. This is a book that is found on Amazon. And so, as you can see on the screen, that is a great book. And it is great for every level of relationship that you are in. She shares her story of how she didn't plan for this marriage, this spouse, and she just found herself in it and have to kind of deal with it. What will she have done better? Has she known better? These are the steps and tips that she gives in this book. And I'm telling you, it will be beneficial for you to grab this book, either on the Kindle version or the paper cover, and just munch on it before you just enter into that marriage. Thank you so much. Minister Ehi, I appreciate you. And you know I love you.
I
Thank
love
you
you
so
too.
much. All right. Thank you. I'll call on you again. So
Yes,
for
please.
now, have yourself a great evening, night, and keep on enjoying Malta. Tell me about it
Thank
when
you
you come
very
back to
much.
UK.
Thank you for having me.
You're
I
very
really
welcome.
enjoyed myself.